Don't you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love? Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
Happy Friday, folks, and welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. It is October 28th, 2022, and we do have a Senate forecast update to share with you. Plus, we're going to talk about where the gubernatorial elections stand at this time. We'll give you a quick overview of where we're at, and, of course, House as well. But the Senate obviously is going to tell us a lot about how we think the direction of this election is going to go. All right. There are a few things I want to bring up. Well, let's talk about this forecast first, and then we'll show a couple of reasons why we think this is happening and why these forecast models have changed. All right. First and foremost, if you're not following on Locals, go ahead and do so. peoplespundit.locals.com. You'll be able to stay up on what we're doing. Look, you know, this election, people are like, what is Rich doing on election? What's Rich doing on election? Right now, I think I'm going to try and attempt to pull off a last minute, very cheap pay-per-view thing. Locals, you'll be able to see it, obviously, but we'll have our own graphics for House, Senate, governor initiatives, things like that. You'll have access to that, so we'll be showing you, but you'll also be able to follow along. I just want to do it in the model that we did it in 2020, where it's like bogged down with all of this other commercials and stuff like that. So I figured, you know what, we'll probably wind up fronting it, and then we'll see how it goes. And you guys, there was a big viewership last time. It was huge. And I'm going to jump on other people's channels, but I'm going to encourage you to come on over to watch the entire stream, because we're going to go basically all night. And then also that will include any follow-ups that we have, like, let's say in Georgia, for instance, there is a runoff. One of the candidates does not get to 50%. It will include that. There'll be updates, because let's face it, it's not election day anymore in this country, folks. It's at least election week. And when you're talking about, let's say, the New York governor's race, Lee Zeldin, most of the election day vote, almost all of it, will be counted on election night, right? But then we're going to have all these mail-in ballots trickle in, and people are going to wonder. It's the same thing, I imagine, with Pennsylvania, Arizona. There'll be late arriving ballots, even though people have been trying to make an effort not to do it. So we'll have these updates, and you'll also have access to that if you so choose to grab that, whatever you want to call it, tier. All right. It will not be expensive, so do not worry about it. It's just a way, like, we do get a whole bunch of viewerships. At least it'll help toward the cost of the data. We'll also have at least one exit poll that we could go over in one very, very exciting race. All right. So we have some plans. It's just there's not a lot of time to deliver them, and we got to get on them. So I want to start telling you about them now. I will jump on War Room. We'll jump on Charlie Kirk and, other places, but we'll give them small little hits to do what we got to do, and then come back, because it's a little hard. I'm going to try to get people like Robert Barnes to join so he can talk to you while I'm doing my work and doing what we're doing. It should be a lot of fun. All right, let's get to the – oh, by the way, again, if you're not joining on Locals, that's it right there. If you're watching on Rumble, which I sure hope you are, or Getter, which I sure hope you are, don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to subscribe if you need to subscribe. All right, give us those little plus signs on Rumble. And if you're on YouTube, thumbs up. Thumbs up. Hit the notification bell after you subscribe, and that'll let you know when we're going to go live. YouTube is hit or miss. I'm telling you right now. So sign up on Rumble. We're basically assuming we're not even really streaming on YouTube anymore. It's there as a backup in case what happened to us the other day from Rumble happens again. All right. All right. So with that in mind, because we got to wait till our advertisers to do that, to at least have a backup. With that in mind, let's take a look at the Senate forecast. We previewed last night on What Are the Odds. If you didn't see it, you best go back and look at it. That was an incredible episode. But it was also a lot of fun, wasn't it? Honestly, Wasn't it a lot of fun? I mean, this is a little bit ridiculous now. My locals page is filled with all these so-called forecasters moving their Senate forecasts over as quickly as they possibly can to get it as close to 50-50 as they possibly can. Guys, it's a scam. It is a scam. They know about as much about election forecasting as you do. They're poll reading, and that's it. There's no 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 super simulations with our super secret model. None of that is happening. They have a lot of cool graphics IT guys. They dump a ton of money in, so it looks like there's a whole bunch of things going on there. The fact of the matter is it is a scam. All right, so let's get into it. Big ones that are going to pop up to you right now, obviously, are going to be Arizona and Georgia. Okay. As of, we are constantly having data trickle in from Arizona. So, you know, for what I said before, you can put your hat together for that, or your, you could put your, what's it called together? Yeah. Put your thinking caps on and you can probably understand which one I'm talking about here. But it doesn't, did it look like, I don't know if that updated. One of the states may have not updated from caching. Let me do it again, clear the cache and do it again. All right, it just looks a little bit too blue to me. Let's refresh it. It is still light blue. Okay, so the color is right, but I want to tell you the probability that it changed. All right, so now Arizona, as we get new data every day that appears to be coming in, yes, some of the early vote matters, but for the most part, that's not really what's going on here. What is simply going on is what we are tracking and what we are seeing. And it does appear that Blake Masters continues to hold a very, very, very tiny lead in Maricopa County. If that is the case, then Blake Masters is going to defeat Mark Kelly, and that is the end of the story. I really don't care what any other pollster says at this point. It is October 28th, and I bury my head in my own data because it has served me well in the past, and basically looking at anybody else's stuff is nothing but a distraction, all right? And frankly, I told you the same damn thing with PA and what happened yesterday. I should have kept my mouth shut. Laura was like, you should have never previewed what's going to come out in PA because then you know people are just going to say, oh, you know, I guess if Rich is going to have it. You hear Laura yelling at me. You know, I guess if Rich is going to have it. Mehmet Oz is absolutely in the lead in our poll that's coming out. So now, I mean, obviously I previewed it. So, you know, it is what it is. So we feel more comfortable about the projection in Pennsylvania. And that is, look, we'll go over in great detail when it's ready for public consumption, but that debate hurt John Fetterman badly. I will go over some of the actual demographics of what we see today, but I'll tell you what, folks, there is a difference between the Senate performance and the gubernatorial. It is Mehmet Oz doing much better in some areas that were like old Romney areas now that, you know, turned away from Donald Trump, turned away from the Republican Party under Donald Trump. But then Fetterman had this just absolute bomb of a debate performance, and it hurt him. It hurt him bad. Southeast Pennsylvania, all right? What do we consider southeastern Pennsylvania? Remember that we remove what we call Dutch country, okay? And why do we do that? Because if you do not, what's going to happen is you're going to get Montgomery, Delaware, Chester, right? All these others that are going to get into the fray. They're going to start to, you know, there are people who can be folks in like Allegheny and try to claim that it's just crazy. So we remove southeastern Pennsylvania, Lancaster, right? Lancaster, right? That's a great example. That is Dutch country in our polling. That is not southeastern Pennsylvania. If you don't do it like this, you will overstate Democratic support in areas like Lancaster and York. All right. That is Dutch country. That is not the same. And Barnes and I have gone over this a lot. Ethnicity by education, by ethnicity, it is a very different area. All right. So if you just, you know, lump everybody in together in the Southeast, you're going to get high participation people in Delaware and Montgomery, and they're going to make the margin extremely too lopsided. All right. For instance, let me give you an example of why you will see Oz outperforming Mastriano as a perfect example. All right. Who do you believe won by the way, 60% almost in southeastern Pennsylvania, 58% said that they watched the debate, and 60% said that Mehmet Oz won. All right. So obviously it's a pretty significant margin on who won it. All right. Actually, the generic ballot there is actually pretty tight. It is D plus, but it is much tighter than you would have expected. Mehmet Oz is not trailing John Fetterman by 25, 30 points in southeastern Pennsylvania. That is not happening. He has cut Joe Biden's margin in half. Meanwhile, Doug Mastriano is still trailing Josh Shapiro 61 to 34. So it's a much different, and there's a lot of votes there. And by the way, this doesn't include Philadelphia. We also exclude Philadelphia from the Southeast. Philadelphia is its own region in the state of Pennsylvania in our weights, all right, in our polling. Meanwhile, by the way, even Donald Trump is doing only, Oz is outperforming Donald Trump in southeastern Pennsylvania. He is. Donald Trump is still outperforming Mehmet Oz in the rematch overall, but he is running behind Mehmet Oz in southeastern Pennsylvania. It's just that Joe Biden is doing so badly in southeastern Pennsylvania, it really wouldn't matter. He has lost a lot of support that he had, even Democrats who are still willing to vote, or new Democrats who are still willing to vote for Josh Shapiro, and even some that are still willing to vote for John Fetterman. They are not willing to vote for Joe Biden. So Joe Biden is, I would say, probably almost like irreparably damaged in the state of Pennsylvania. But we'll get into Pennsylvania more because I want to give you the change in probabilities here. New Hampshire has now, there has been another two polls. We are largely using some of the demographic data from the generic ballot along with our other fundamentals we talked about before. The polls at the state level we are taking with a grain, whether they're pro Hassan or pro Baldak. They are not impacting our thinking a whole hell of a lot. That's the truth, or at least not outsized like other models. They don't. We have learned a lesson since this model was authored and debuted in 2014. And if you rely on media and university polling, as well as some of the more, I wouldn't even call them internals, but, they're definitely polling that's pushed by one side over the other, it will screw up what you're seeing. We're looking at demographics and how they appear to be voting. All right. The sample size in Pennsylvania, we'll get into that. It's a lot. It's big. We do not release 400 sample polls. It'll be ballpark 1,000. The sample for Pennsylvania overall will be 1,000 likely voters. And obviously we spoke to more registered voters, but a lot of people will be screened out. All right. So now Maggie Hassan's likelihood of holding on has now fallen to just over 52%. So it is now slightly Democrat in New Hampshire. We may get a good indication of how the night's going to go by looking at two states. It was a great question asked last night. New Hampshire is one of them. North Carolina will be another. But we'll be looking at certain districts that come in really quickly. There are districts in Kentucky and there are districts in Indiana. They tend to report very quickly and very early, and they're going to tell us a lot. All right. Florida is going to distort because Republicans are just going to romp. It's a blowout in Florida, ladies and gentlemen. It is an absolute blowout. In fact, Florida has now risen to 90% likelihood for Republican. So that race is basically, it's a wrap. Democrats have run. They have given up. And everybody knows it. So let's cut the crap. This idea that Val Demings was keeping it tight is just simply not true. All right. Now, I'm going to show you the likelihood of another race and how it has changed. All right. We talked about this last night with Barnes, and then we're going to run a clip, and I'm going to show you why. Georgia is now 65% likelihood. It is 1% shy of likely. All right. It still leans, but it is 1% shy of likely. To us in our model for people, and I got asked if we would put it in the what is basically a legend here, I guess. We can, and I will. So that is a good idea. I'll show you the probabilities. What is a pure coin toss? What is slightly Democrat versus leans Democrat, likely Democrat, solidly Democrat? And frankly, we should have put that up for you guys. It's just that it's usually on People's Pundit Daily in great detail. And because I'm not sure we're going to do that this year, I'll put it up for you to see as we talk about it. And then for locals, as we update it every day and we send it out to you guys, at least you'll be able to see why. Why is 66% likely on our model? Very simple. You're 2/3 likely. I mean, it's basic statistics. Once you hit that 2/3 likely mark, you're not talking about a leans race anymore. That is a likely outcome at that point. When every time you look at, potential outcomes out of 100 times, and it comes back 66, percent of the time, that becomes a likely outcome. All right. And I know 50-50 is like, this isn't the medical field, more likely than not. All right. This is quite different than that. But in any event, there's a few things that are going on in Georgia. Internal polling for both parties show that Warnock has absolutely started to collapse. The stories about Herschel Walker, people don't believe. I don't know if it was the debate. I don't know what happened here, but the partisan lean of the state this year is strongly, strongly Republican. We have polled it 3 times, and now actually going on 4. And others have polled it that we know and trust when it comes to polling that state. It is very clear that voters in the state of Georgia want to vote Republican. Independents in 18 and 20 actually voted toward the Democrat. The only reason why the state was close is because Republicans outvoted as far as their share of the overall electorate. This time, that is not the case. Walker, Kemp, generic Republicans, down ballot Republicans, they are winning independents in Georgia. And if Georgia is even, it means they're going to win. Now, whether Walker hits 50 or not to us is almost irrelevant. It's not totally irrelevant, but it's almost irrelevant in our model because incumbents who are forced into runoffs in the state of Georgia are highly, highly likely to lose if you look at the historic voting patterns. All right? So it just keeps getting more likely that Republicans that's going to be a Republican pickup. Georgia will be a pickup for Republicans. All right, another one is that Nevada, there's been some screwy polls that push down Laxalt's chances a little bit, but I got to be honest, I think that's kind of right because we have Lombardo doing, you'll see over the weekend, we have Lombardo doing a little bit better than he was doing, not a little bit, he's doing better than he was doing in our last poll, and now he's actually outpacing Adam Laxalt a little bit, although Laxalt hasn't weakened, it's just that Lombardo kind of surged. He was in the low 40s, remember? Now Lombardo's lead is slightly more than Laxalt's lead, and I am trying to be very careful about this pattern of overstating Republican support. So Laxalt's probability of victory net is 55%. All right, it's down a little bit, but it still is a leans Republican race. All right, and I still and by the way, it will go up when we release ours because there's a higher degree of confidence in our own polling. I never overestimated Donald Trump in 2016. I didn't overestimate Dean Heller in 2018. We didn't poll in 2020 because I actually didn't think that it would be a viable seat, or a viable electoral vote, for Donald Trump, and I was wrong. It clearly was very viable. Polling it this year, the several times that we have, it's very clear that there are congressional districts that Democrats not only should win, need to win, that they're going to lose, and they're going to apparently lose the governor's race, which tells you Adam Laxalt with high name recognition, strong support from the Hispanic community, and by the way, look at the vote in Clark County right now. In-person early vote, Republicans are actually romping. It's only D plus 11,000 when you combine mail-in and early vote. That is not good for Democrats. Also, they have a smaller pool to tap in their registered voter advantage than they did 2 years ago. About 45,000 fewer. It's a big deal. 45,000 is a big number in a state that has so few people and voters in it comparatively, relatively speaking, right? All right, what else is on the board that we need to talk about here? Arizona, I know, is the biggie. We're going to see whether or not that one holds. Wisconsin, Ron Johnson just continues to bump up. He's now at 85% likelihood. He is running stronger than we have ever polled Ron Johnson. And in fact, he's running extremely strong compared to even Donald Trump. He's running extremely strong compared to any Republican statewide. He looks even more solid than Scott Walker in some of his reelection bits. It's a very strong lead. I was sharing some of the Wow County margins yesterday. a polling aggregator, and it's just, I just don't know how he loses with these margins. The CNN poll, Johnson +1 is clearly an outlier. Johnson's lead is about 5 points, but it's a solid 5 points. Tim Michaels, a little bit less, but we'll get into the governor's stuff in a little bit. All right. Anyway, let's get back to Georgia real quick because I want to run something for you. When it comes to Georgia and Pennsylvania, you see our rating moves in Georgia and Pennsylvania. Don't blame me. Don't blame me. Even Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden seem to know it. Roll clip.
State voter will see it first. State voter it's hard to believe that they will vote for this. By the way, the lockdown tomorrow, yeah. But our vote, our early turnout in Georgia is huge. Yeah. That's the end of democracy. It's not a democratic state. But this is great, not just for us, but for the whole country. Because this is going to happen over and over again. Yeah.
I caution you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Laura. I muted it during the video so you didn't hear me. But he's talking about how they're slipping in Georgia, but that they can take solace in the early vote because the turnout is huge in the early vote. Everybody is turning out in early vote. I caution you to try to read early vote tea leaves, and I do it every year. Democrats do this to make themselves feel better about themselves. But the truth is, they're really not doing that well compared if you look at other counties around the state. There are Trump 70-plus counties that are already 100% of their 2020 early vote totals. So the turnout is just a lot higher in Georgia by early vote than it has been in the past. It shouldn't surprise you at all because guess what? That's the way it was in the primary. It doesn't matter. All right. And by the way, what happened at the end? Republicans took an advantage lead in that anyway. And we're looking at it, and it looks like I would say turnout on election day is only going to be about 30% of the overall vote share in Georgia. All right. So that's down. When you look at a state like Arizona, that's a huge election day turnout for Arizona because they're usually 12 to 18% election day. 2020, 20-something percent was telling 22% were telling us they were going to vote on election day. And that was big for Arizona in 2020, but yet still it wasn't enough for Trump to catch up at the end, even though he kept winning the late early vote. He kept winning that. It wasn't enough to chip away at it. This time, a little over 30%, almost a third, are telling us that they will vote on election day in Arizona, and the data seems to be able to back that up, whereas Georgia's the reverse, where about only 30%, I'm saying only, even though it's the same number, only about 3 in 10 say they're going to vote on election day, which is a big, big difference from prior cycles in Georgia. Other states, folks, like frankly, Florida is a blowout. Republicans have now actually taken an advantage. It's a blowout. This is not at all looking competitive. And Republicans, you have to understand, have a couple 100,000 voter advantage to be able to put out on election day. They'll still win the election day vote. But what matters here, when you look at states like Nevada, what's going on in Nevada, even Georgia, the big difference here is that independents are swinging to Republicans. It's not enough for Democrats. It's not enough. Even if we try to make the mistake of looking at the early vote tea leaves. And the media, what they will do, and they do it every year, is they focus on Democrat numbers solidly as if North Carolina still does not have a ton of registered Democrats who vote Republican. And then secondly, they'll look at Democrat areas. Like in Georgia, for instance, they're going to say, look at the turnout in DeKalb County. Look at the turnout in Cobb County. Look at the turnout in Fulton County. Look at those early vote numbers. In Pennsylvania, I will say, and you will see it in the poll when it is released, that Democrats right now, absolutely, if all the votes were counted right now, Fetterman is going to be way ahead. But Oz has a big, big margin. And just to give you an idea, he's got a big election day margin. Just to give you an idea, about 20% told us, yeah, you already voted. 75 plus, I've said, let me get the actual number though for you guys. Where are you? All right. Certain to vote, already voted. Certain to vote, but I did already vote, is about 26%. Okay. Certain to vote, have not yet voted, is 72.4. And then because we are so close to the elections, the likely voter screen gets much tighter. You're only looking at about 2% that are likely to vote. The odds are greater than 50-50. They just haven't voted yet. All right. Oz leads in that second category by an enormous margin. Mastriano leads too. He just doesn't lead by the margin that Oz leads by, which tells you Mastriano has time to make some of this up. It's just that he is, you'll see, and we'll go over it in detail. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but in the certain to vote and already voted category in Pennsylvania, Fetterman and Shapiro have very large leads. All right. The difference is not that significant, however, which means if people voted already, then Oz and Mastriano, as far as votes that have been cast, they're roughly in the same position. The difference is all on people who have yet to vote and will vote on election day. All right, both those two categories. It tells you that Mastriano does have a time to make up ground. He doesn't have much time, but he's got time to make up ground. Okay, where else are we going here? Yeah, those are the big major changes. All right, so we can at least do this for now. Those are the big major changes for now. They're probably, sometimes during the day, there may be an update like 2 or 3 times a day. That may happen, especially with our own polling. If we have something that, we're doing, it will change a rating immediately. Because, for instance, North Carolina, what are we at in North Carolina now? Let me look at the last probability. 70% chance that Ted Budd wins. It's probably going to rise based on some stuff we're doing. I want to address this. It is inaccurate for other forecasters. And I don't mean I'm not beating on them here for any other reason other than they're wrong. All right. There's nothing personal. It's not, cheap shot. It is the truth. And when it comes to modeling, you have to understand how this stuff, at least not how it should work, at least. Even if it doesn't work that way with everyone, you should know how it should work. For instance, I'm not even going to call them out by name, but one of them particularly continuously says something like this. Sherry Beasley continues to outperform her expectations in polling and fundraising. So while the race slightly tilts to Ted Budd, she remains competitive and the state is technically a toss-up. That is false. Everything about that is false. The truth is, the state of North Carolina, public polling in the state of North Carolina over the last 10 years, since 2012, has understated Republican support and overstated Democratic support. Fast forward to the last good GOP midterm 2 years later in 2014. Kay Hagan always led Tom Tillis, always led him by a significant margin. And it wasn't until the very final week where it looked like the race was at least tightening. But Tillis never took a lead. Kay Hagan had the lead in the RCP average. They got closer, single digits, 5-7 points. There was a tie here and there, but there was never a Tillis lead. There was one Tillis lead in that final home stretch. It was a Republican pollster. It was mocked mercilessly, and they turned out to be exactly right. Our own panel in 2014 of independents and undecideds showed that they were, in fact, leaning toward Tom Tillis when we put it into our model, it was about a 2-point win for Tom Tillis, a little less. That's exactly what happened. But we allowed public polling to influence, to have too much weight in the rest of the model, and it screwed us up. It was the one miss that we had that year in the U.S. Senate. And that was the one time we decided we're going to reduce the weight for public polling in our forecast because it is getting so bad. And it wasn't just North Carolina. Fast forward to 2016, Hillary Clinton was projected by the New York Times and others, Clinton +6, early voting analysis, all that. It overstated Hillary Clinton's support, grossly understated Donald Trump's support. Fast forward to 2020, and we saw both races, the Senate and the presidency, both of them. Cunningham had a double-digit lead over Tom Tillis, even though people in North Carolina, Democrats in North Carolina, did not believe it. I mean, I remember the day a Cal Cunningham +10 poll came out. +10. And Democrats were lamenting to us about how their lead evaporated and now was within the margin of error. I will never forget that. At the presidential level, the same thing. Shall we go back and read the headline from the New York Times? President Trump's position among white voters because of educated white voters has deteriorated significantly, and there is no mathematical way for him to cobble together an electoral vote coalition without North Carolina. So thus, the fact that we have him down by 6 means he has no chance to win. It was a race that was called on election night, or at least it was with us. And Tom Tillis won. So it is not true to say that Cheri Beasley is outperforming expectations. No, she is underperforming in the polls, which means if you're modeling this out, Ted Budd's lead in the polls right now needs to be adjusted higher. Or at least if you don't, because I don't like unskewing polls, but you definitely need to look at it and take it into account and adjust the probability that there is a victory for the Republican Party in that state. So it's just ludicrous. And to bring fundraising in it is absolutely almost irrelevant. Kay Hagan outspent Tom Tillis. Cal Cunningham outspent Tom Tillis. Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump. Joe Biden sure as hell outspent Donald Trump. Nonsense. Nonsense. And I should share it, but there was a podcast on RCP the other day, Carl Cannon, Tom Bevan, and there was somebody else. It may have actually even have been A.B. Stoddard. But she was going on and saying how erroneous polling in states like South Carolina, North Carolina, all of these states, around for the Senate, had given Democrats this feeling that they were going to win these races. It has real world implications. They then go and run to donors who gave hundreds of millions of dollars, outspent Republicans on an average of 2-1, but in some of these states it was even more. Lindsey Graham is on Hannity, basically in tears, begging for money because he believes it. Everybody remembers. Come on. And yet it had nothing to do with reality. It was totally fiction. Obviously, every single one of those Republicans won, and they won pretty easily. It's fictitious polling. All right. When we come back, we'll talk more about this, of course, but we're also going to talk about how well Republicans are doing despite the fact that their own party has been trying to sabotage them left and right. General Bolduc is a perfect example, and we're going to talk to somebody who knows better than perhaps anybody how the Republican Party can try to sabotage their own if it means that they don't have to actually do what they say when they get in office. All right, but first, let's do a quick word from our sponsors, shall we? Listen, oh boy, you can tout that GDP number all you want. It's not going to fix the supply chain. Food shortages are a problem. We all know this. Inflation, drought, government policies, they're all pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. That's why survival food is more important than ever. Create your own stockpile like Laura and I have done for our own family of the best-selling For Patriots survival food kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years survival food, hand-packed right in a family-owned facility in the USA. The kits are sturdy, they're compact, they're light resistant, they're water resistant, they stack very easily. You can put them tucked in a nook and cranny or in a closet. Keep them when you absolutely need them. They stay out of your way. Different delicious breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, and you can make them in less than 20 minutes. You just add boiling water, simmer it, and serve it to the family. Go to 4patriots.com/TPP to get your 3-month survival kit. That 3-month kit is the jam. That's where it's at. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus 10 free gifts and free shipping. Every single one of those free gifts, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, are absolutely useful, and in several cases, they are absolutely a must-have. They're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com/TPP to build your own stockpile today, like Laura and I have done for our own family. All right. By the way, while we're at it, while we're on the topic, all right. Anybody take a look at the market today? I mean, this is why Democrats are really in so much trouble. You can't be at the bottom of the barrel, claim and then gain a little bit and claim like it was some kind of an accomplishment or something. Have you ever heard the expression that sometimes the only place to go when you're down, the only thing to do is to be able to get up? I mean, that's when you're at the bottom of the barrel. Sometimes the only thing to do is to rise a little bit. All right, so it doesn't mean you've accomplished a whole hell of a lot. I'll tell you, I still absolutely don't like what I'm seeing structurally with the economy at all, and neither should you. Last time we saw it happen, the stock market collapsed 50%. The US dollar lost nearly as much of its value. Yet, while the economy was crippled and inflation ran through the roof, the price of gold shot up 1,300%. Silver, 2,400. So if history repeats itself, we can absolutely see this happen again. Can you afford to miss what could be the biggest gold and silver boom of our generation? That's why I want you to visit tpplikesgold.com, because when you do, you'll not only get the chance to protect your retirement savings with gold and silver, you could get $10,000 or more in free silver just for doing it. It's a rare opportunity, so don't miss out on it. It's the best opportunity to protect your retirement savings. tpplikesgold.com. That's tpplikesgold.com. And I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. I should say it every damn time. Diversification is the key. All right. So we didn't test here. So hopefully this works out just fine. I want to bring on, he is the former candidate from California 13, but also a good friend of mine. Congratulations to him. David Giglio, ladies and gentlemen. David Giglio.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me all right? Oh, good. Yeah, it's my birthday today. So this is my present. I get to come on the show.
It's David's birthday, and I'm not going to share it if you don't want to share it. But
no, go ahead. Yeah, and my
family
son
has expanded.
Yeah, my son was born last week, Brooks David. So he's been doing good. It's been an exciting month, And
yeah, it has. Yeah, it has.
As you know, it's a crazy time. So this has been a good chance to take a break from some of it all and get back to focusing on this. But we got a lot to talk about. I know you're probably seeing a lot going on.
Yeah, I want to, ask you this, because now as a new father, right, it's like a lot that you went through. You poured your heart and soul into a totally different strategy, which, by the way, you were successful with. It's just that at the last minute, Kevin McCarthy decided to throw in an old white guy who's going to lose, by the way, a seat that was absolutely capable of winning. He's going to lose because he doesn't have your 15% of the electorate that's Hispanic. And it's a freaking tragedy for the Republican Party. Dump millions of dollars in a race to defeat you that you were already winning. You had the base, all of the elected local people. But when you come in, spend millions of dollars to win the old vote, the old white vote. Let's be real, David. Let's be real. Because that's what votes in a primary.
Well,
but it's not a general election winner. And I know it's hard and you did so much. And sometimes candidates have to stop and think, is this worth it? But now that you had a son, I want to ask you, Was it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely
Your
worth
world
it because
changes, man.
yeah, I mean, I believe that we need to start electing people. You know, I am a Republican, obviously. I want America first, but we got to start electing people that want to get things done on behalf of their constituents. And quite frankly, I think in Washington and even in a lot of state governments, we have a lot of people involved in politics that are there for the wrong reasons. And I think that's why the country's in the shape it's in. And so it was worth it because I think we made a lot of inroads here in this district. Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, our strategy was pretty different. We were always focused on trying to build a much bigger, broader general election electorate, and we accomplished it. If you look at the official results, obviously, we won some of the biggest Hispanic precincts. You know, people that they never would have expected. That actually we were mocked when we said that we were going to get Hispanic support. They said we never could, and we did it. And that's the key. And what you said that I find to be important is something that I posted a post on Twitter the other day. Paul Ryan's comments, right? These Republicans, they still believe that the suburban white voter is the biggest swing voter in the country.
They're a bunch of idiots.
And they're wrong. I mean, they're saying it, but they're saying it and they're telling other people this is true. And I believe they're doing it for nefarious reasons. I think Paul Ryan knows that that's not the biggest swing voter, but I think he wants to justify to people that that's the type of Republican Party you need to have, because that's the type of Republican Party he and people like Kevin and Mitch McConnell and Ronna McDaniel, that's the type of Republican Party they accept. They don't want to be the working class, blue collar party, because these aren't people they hang out with. And it's unfortunate because you can't keep kicking your base in the face over and over and think you're going to be a successful party in the long term. And if you don't get the things you say you're going to do when you get there done, you're going to get kicked out. I mean, I've had a couple of people come at me about obviously defending Trump. You talked a little bit about Trump, especially now that, you know, it looks like there's some big names gearing up to challenge him. But they said, you know, Trump couldn't win this, Trump couldn't win that. And he expanded the electorate better than anyone. And so I think it was worth it. But I think we still have some unfinished business to do. And I think we got to keep working, and we got to get people around the country to run that, quite frankly, are just fed up with everything.
You know, you have a place like Arizona where they don't have the stronghold, the foothold that they have in your area, which is that's something that's very different, which is that, you know, where you ran, Kevin McCarthy is extremely, even though he doesn't really, the local people don't like him. All right, let's be clear about it. The local activists, nobody likes the guy, you know, but he has a lot of power with the state party. You know, they buy and sell endorsements. I mean, that's what's going on there. I mean, you know, so it's more difficult task than it is, say, in a state like Arizona. Now, look at the difference, David. You know, for the Paul Ryans of the world, you know, look at Arizona, look at Florida, look at Georgia, where the new right actually is winning back the voters that Paul Ryan really wants to win. But they're also adding it. One area where Herschel Walker's doing better than Brian Kemp, guess where? Hispanics. He's winning the Hispanic vote, and Brian Kemp is not. This is 3 polls now, or four. Rasmussen's the latest. 4 polls now, including the University of Georgia, that show that that's the case. There is no future in shrinking white electorate. It's just true. You have to have a broader coalition. The census just came out. You can't believe with a straight face that, or you can't think for a straight face that Paul Ryan believes what he's saying and what Kevin McCarthy says in private, he actually really believes. You can't. A census just came out, David. They're wrong. It's not up for debate. They're wrong.
I think in one way, they might think those are the people that are going to show up. They're kind of, I think maybe they're thinking, well, we're not sure. We're not sure that Latinos are going to go to the polls, but that's because Latinos can smell the BS, quite frankly. Latinos, like you've said over and over and over again, they voted for Donald Trump because he was different. And they remember what the old Republican Party was. So it's very hard for Republicans to get Latinos to show up because Latinos know that a lot of Republicans are full of crap and that they're not going to do what they say they're going to do. And I think that's why Paul Ryan says that, because they don't want to put in the work to get these people to show up. They're basically telling Latino voters, listen, we want you to vote for us. You should be voting for us. Your values are the same as our values, but we're going to give you the party that we say, right? That's basically what they're saying. They don't want to listen to Latino voters. I went out, and when we talked to people around this district, which is a heavily over 60%, it's about 60% Latino district. They loved Donald Trump. They were the ones who loved border security. They were the ones who said America first. They were all for it. And it's like you can tell the people at the top of this over and over and over again, but they don't want to believe it. They don't want to accept it because for them, they were always the ones who were saying in 2016 that Trump could never win Latino voters, that all Latinos were going to vote against him. So they just can't accept that they were wrong. And that's the problem the Republican Party, I think, has, is that the pundits, the consultants that have been around for decades, they never want to admit that they were wrong. They keep thinking if they keep going back to the well, eventually they're going to be right. And if they lose, they're too proud to change. And if anyone thinks that, sorry.
No, finish your thought. Finish your thought.
No, I was going to say, like Paul Ryan, I mean, listen, Paul Ryan is saying what people like Kevin are thinking. So Kevin can't say, Paul says it for him. The two are close. They're all in bed with Frank Luntz, who believes the exact same things. And this is what's going on behind closed doors. Like you said, you have a lot of people, even outward Trump supporters, that are privately looking for a way out.
Yeah, they're filling people's heads, and it's hard to resist it. And again, I don't want to get too much into detail about, the top three. There's really one, though, that would be a real betrayal because he owes his career to Donald Trump. But I don't want to, cause a fracture at this point. Basically, so I'm kind of waiting and holding back here.
But Trump kind of did it a little bit yesterday on Truth.
He did, but look, people. It's happening. And I always tell people this, David, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the donors. It's not in what a politician says. It's often not even what he or she does, when they're like making moves and governing moves in anticipation of aspirations that they have in the future, because they're making those moves to lay the groundwork, right? For having bona fides later when they go to run for something bigger and better. And then all of a sudden, they're not that guy anymore. They're not that girl anymore. The truth is always in the money. Who is giving them money? And if you look at some of these people, and even that one, it's very clear the money's coming from Big Sugar. It's coming from hedge funds. It's coming from everybody that Donald Trump fought when he was the president, and who fought him, and who are now responsible for Joe Biden. And in turn, they are responsible for historic inflation. They are responsible for the collapse of the Abraham Accords. They are responsible for this conflict in Ukraine, which is dangerously spiraling toward a nuclear war. There are now Marines butting up against Ukraine. I mean, this is nuts. This is nuts. And they're all responsible for it. And the Meghan McCains of the world, who, for instance, they were offended over their daddy or something, so they went completely against their principles, or their stated principles, and then supported this and also bear responsibility for this, yet in areas where the establishment was beaten, which is Arizona. They were beaten first by Kelly Ward when she basically took over as the chair of the Arizona Republican Party. She took it and then replaced people, the people around her with people that would never betray the base. And, so the back, kind of like the backstage fight happened. And then this primary season was the fight that was in front of everybody when, the electoral fight and the primary fight. And the establishment lost that as well. And yet where they don't have a footing, I'm talking about the establishment doesn't have a big footing. Isn't it funny how they seem to be able to win over those voters that Paul Ryan says will never come around? They seem to win them over anyway. Like Kerry Lake obviously consolidated her base, the vast majority of them anyway. It doesn't matter anymore what Meghan McCain says. It just doesn't matter. No. Kerry, and the same is true of like Abe Hamaday. And he's like 2 points away from Mays with 4-year college degree voters.
Well, and if you looked, think about where Lake and those people would be if the establishment wasn't fighting them too. These people, like Kerry Lake, is going to win, and she's being sabotaged by her own party, and that's the thing. Right. And so that's what they're doing that on purpose too, because even though they know she's going to win, they're going to say
prophecy, buddy.
They're going to say, well, if we had nominated so and so, they would have won by more.
That's right.
They do that. I mean, I quite frankly am. You have to look at the rot in the Republican Party, and there's no better place to look at it than what they're doing to Doug in Pennsylvania. I mean,
I was just gonna bring up the scum of the earth.
They would give money. I mean, they would honestly. They would give money to a Democrat, I think, before they would help Doug Mastriano. And there's really no
Karl Rove. His PAC is backing Shapiro.
And I don't. Why? Because Doug Mastriano fought after the election against obvious irregularities. And this is something I said, like this whole, I'm getting tired of the overturn the election crowd, because one, especially because one of them is probably going to run for president. Mike Pence keeps saying, he did the right thing. He could have had no choice. Nobody asked, Mike Pence to overturn the election. All that was asked of Mike Pence was give the states a couple weeks to do a full audit, because there were obvious irregularities. And so, because Doug Mastriano was complaining that the governor broke the law. I mean, the state constitution, where it says only the state legislature can change election law. He's not worthy of money. And don't think that the Republican Party doesn't know what's going on here. Pennsylvania could be the most important state in 2024.
Well, that's what they're doing, David. Let's get real for a second. Everybody knows the governor has enormous power over or everyone in the business knows. Maybe viewers at home don't, but the governor of a state has enormous power in how votes are counted. All right. A governor can ignore, the enforcement of laws when he sees violations. He or she can try to unilaterally change it, like they did during COVID. Wolf did.
He appoints
Whitmer
the
did.
Secretary of State in Pennsylvania.
That's right.
Correct.
And if Gretchen Whitmer could have stopped Jocelyn Benson from unilaterally changing the rules for mail-in voting and with signature IDs, she didn't, whereas if Doug Mastriano is the governor, they know that Doug is going to strictly enforce the law. One of them being the undated ballots issue. The Supreme Court had a bunch of ballots, but they still nevertheless said you can't count those undated ballots, and yet they're going to do it.
Yeah, I know. We have the crowd on the left who's constantly rallying against threats to the institutions and threats to democracy. And here you have the highest court in the land, and they're basically saying we don't care. I mean, that's the threat to democracy. I mean, one side, they're just like you say all the time. The left just projects their behavior on others, and then they get the media to parrot it.
Laura's been saying that for many, many, many
years. And that's what's happening here. And the ironic thing about sabotaging Doug is, what if, say by some miracle, Trump isn't the nominee in 2024 and they get their guy on the top, and then Pennsylvania's a mess.
That's right.
You think the Dems are going to let their guy win? So they're so spiteful, and it really makes you question things. Like, so you're doing this for what? I mean, the Dems it just doesn't make sense. And it really makes you wonder what the Republicans are all about. And you said something in the beginning before I came on about, do they want people that are actually going to change things? And that's the biggest issue I see with our politics today. But take away Democrat and Republican, because when it comes to getting things done, they're both status quo preservers.
Yeah.
They don't want to make major change. Well, the Dems do. That's the funny thing. The Dems go for the jugular, but when Republicans are in power, they just like to keep the status quo going. They don't want people to push buttons. And so that's what they want to play it safe. It's like playing prevent defense in football.
As long as it's
Yeah.
it's in compliance with the administrative state. So if the Democrats want to do big and bold things, as long as it doesn't really change the administrative state or the deep state at all, and because now they're back to being aligned. It's like the pre-Vietnam era where they're back to being aligned with the war crowd. So for people who really don't know this, I mean, the Democratic Party was the party of war until Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
Lyndon Johnson was,
Gulf of Tonkin, buddy. Come on. The Gulf of Tonkin.
Yeah,
Look,
and
it's invisible. You can't see it, but look, it happened. I mean, and Alaska's another one, David. When you said they jeopardized themselves, they do it. Alaska's another one. Lisa Murkowski knew she could not survive a primary challenge, so she's such a liar, a filthy liar, filthy, dirty liar. I didn't do that. They're all her people. They pushed through that referendum for ranked choice voting. She knew she would never be able to survive a normal primary, so they were willing to throw the state of Alaska, an energy state. Ladies and gentlemen, the state cannot survive without its energy sector. Democrats are openly hostile to its energy sector. And yet, Lisa Murkowski, to save her own rotten ass, was willing to throw away the state of Alaska to Democrats. And she did. She did. She also, if a Republican will survive the Senate this time, but mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, the next Senate seat is going to go Democrat if this dynamic keeps up in Alaska. Peltola.
Well, and she's old. Yeah, she's actually endorsing Peltola, and oh man, ranked choice voting is just ridiculous. And
biggest scam, David, the biggest.
And that's what
scam.
I tell people. This is how dumb some of these Republicans are. Is that they fall for this? Oh, it's fair. It gives they think that the media is going to make them the bad guys when they oppose it. But this whole argument, oh, it's fair for other parties and this and that. No libertarians ever won under ranked choice voting. They still perform just as bad. And it's just, it's out of control. I mean, anytime the Democrats want to change voting rules, you have to assume it's because it's in their advantage. And they know that. And I can't believe that Republicans still let them get away with it. And this is what's at stake. I mean, going back to, was it worth it? This is a really important election. And I wish it was taking place in a presidential year, say Trump was running, because Republicans are at kind of a breaking point. I'm afraid that, and you hear it when you talk to voters in polls, right? They're skeptical of the Republican Party, right? They're
absolutely.
They're saying, well, every time we give them power, they don't do what they say they're going to do. Now, the problem right now is just the country's just such a mess. I mean, the Democrats are so crazy that people are like, I have no choice. I'm going to vote Republican. But I'm incredibly worried about if Republicans take power and they don't do the things they say they're going to do. I don't know how many more chances they're going to get. Because I think some of these Latinos are finally going to say, you know what? For 30 years, we voted Democrat. 40 years, we voted Democrat. We finally came over and said, we'll give you guys the power you wanted, and you still didn't do anything. So what's they're risking losing those Latino voters that are now pushing the GOP to new heights. And you said, follow the money. That's what people, you can go to Open Secrets. You can look at the FEC. You really got to start taking a look at the people running the Republican Party. Who are they getting money from? Are things going to change? I mean, listen, I've been talking a lot about this on my podcast. If you guys watch on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah, it's all right. 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. But I've been talking a lot about this COVID vaccine stuff, especially after the CDC mandated it.
Right.
The rates
which
of
Republicans are really.
No one's speaking up. And then if you go look at the McCarthy Victory Fund, who they're getting their money from, pharmaceutical companies. This could be potentially, in my opinion, one of the biggest crimes the government's ever committed against its own people, because they know something is terribly wrong. And now they've shielded these vaccine companies from penalty because they put it on the childhood thing. But you have to look at that and say, are the Republicans going to do it? Do you trust Kevin McCarthy and, those people? Do you trust that they're going to take on Merrick Garland, that they're going to impeach Merrick Garland? Are they speaking out against him? Kevin made one tweet when Trump got raided. They put up a 3-sentence quote, and you haven't heard anything since. And things have gotten worse because now the FBI is actually targeting not even politicians; they're just targeting normal people. And
this
many
is
yeah.
This is why I've seen some of the responses people give to you on Twitter when you're like, where's Kevin McCarthy on this? Where's anybody? Because if you don't see those leaders stand up, then they just feel that it's a green light, so they keep going with it, it gets worse. It's a give an inch, take a foot kind of thing. So
well, that's why
every time something happens like that, you need, because people are like, well, why would Kevin speak up? He's the leader of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. What are you talking about? If the leaders don't stand up and say something, they're going to continue, because guess what? They will not feel like there is any consequence for them at all. And by the way, you have, whether it's things that happened during COVID, you have a lot of these people lawyering up, but you're not actually seeing, them afraid. They're not really afraid. And that, and when it comes to the Justice Department, David, there's just no fear at all. They have no
if they were
fear
afraid, listen, they know that Republicans are going to win in 11 days, and they're still doing this kind of stuff. So there's no fear of it. Well, the Republicans told them, Kevin came out, and Nancy Mace's going around, basically said no impeachment of Joe Biden. And listen, I'm going to make something clear. I don't think impeachment is something that needs to be thrown around lightly. I do believe it's I don't think like it should have been used against Trump, but we're in extraordinary times here. And,
I don't like the tit for tat either. Yeah.
And right now, though, Joe Biden has, listen, the stuff with Hunter, if we actually got the full story, that's impeachable stuff right there. He sold out his country. But
even
also,
Jon Stewart, dude, Jon Stewart and Bill Maher.
Also, you have the Saudi government, the coercion with the oil thing. Look at, he tried to strong arm the Saudis into not cutting production until after the election. This is the exact same thing that they accused Trump of and they impeached Trump over. And my problem is Democrats, if they don't see an equal reaction from Republicans, they put that in their memory bank and they say, okay, we did this and there was no response. So let's try this now, push it a little further and see what we can get. And quite frankly, I think Democrats now are going to use impeachment anytime there's a Republican president, because the Democrats don't really care about the institutions they claim to want to protect. They want a one-party government. That's what they're going for. Look at what their version of democracy is. You made fun of Max Boot, right? You saw that tweet from Max Boot where if Republicans win, democracy is over. But this is the left. So the left has a very different definition of democracy. The left has a different definition of democracy. Their version of democracy is a place where everybody agrees to the same things. That's actually not democracy. That's fascism. But so Republicans have to wake up to this. And
he's got a problem with voting, Max Boot. He's got a problem with voting. And that's why I said, wait until you see what happens. The white woman is going to be abused again, like they were abused in 2016. The Hispanic population, when they were abused in 2020 in places like Florida by the media. Well, of course, they're going to vote for Donald Trump. They just have something in their DNA that draws them to masculinity. They like to have orders barked at them, and you can see it. And look, remember John Podesta's emails? These are needy people who need to be directed, basically, right? This is how they feel about people. You wait. White women were basically billed as the savior of the Republic in 2018. Then again in 2020, after being accused of letting their husbands tell them how to vote in 2016. And then that's going to happen again, because look at the USA Today poll, our own poll, which I can put up here. You can see Rasmussen today. Let's talk about this. The generic ballot lead for Rasmussen, interestingly enough, they only have a 3-point difference between, a 5-point difference between Republicans and Democrats among women. And you can actually see Republicans are winning females this time. You had ours, where I said it was an expanding potential. Republicans were only down by 3 among women. USA Today, same thing. The New York Times, same thing. Monmouth poll, same thing. They're going to go after these women, David. Watch, mark my words. They're going to go after them. And by the way, this is a slight 2-point expansion from our generic ballot. If those independent, without college degree, 30 to 64-year-old women who are the lion's share of the undecided vote in our poll, if they decide they're going to move to Republicans, if they even vote, and they're going to be abused for it. Mark my words, man. Watch.
Well, yeah,
Watch.
I mean, they're obviously they the Democrats can't accept that it's their policies that are causing the failures, right? I mean, look at how they talk about the economy, right? Everything's great, it's not our fault. I mean, Joe Biden just lied yesterday and said he inherited gas that was what was he said,
and
like
he is a major liar.
And he lied about it. They inherited, quite frankly, Trump got the V-shaped recovery he said he was going to get. And
he did.
Listen, you could talk about the GDP stuff. I mean, I think it's a little interesting that it's so much expectations right before the election. But anybody who has a brain goes out, shops, goes to the store, pays their bills right now, understands that something's not right. Right? That you could show me all the great GDP numbers you want, but when I go to Walmart and I buy 7 items and it costs me $150, something's wrong, and they don't want to accept that it's their policy. So they have to look for people to blame. It's you idiots that fell for the Republican lies, right? Meanwhile, the Democrats are just gaslighting day in and day out. I mean, every press conference. Imagine if Kayleigh McEnany was talking like Karine there every day at the press briefings. I mean, it's just total gaslighting the entire hour she's up there, and nobody asks questions about it.
But that's the thing. There's no adversarial relationship. The way that there was when Donald Trump's press secretaries, whether it was Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Sean Spicer, Kayleigh McEnany, with obviously the last one, it doesn't matter what they were saying. Even if they were saying things that were true, there was this like vitriol response, this adversarial response. Here, they just let people just tell lies.
Yeah, I mean, they were going to fact check everything.
Joe Biden has been lying about the economy his entire time in office. The inflation issue came before Putin invaded. Gas started to rise before, or Putin invaded, Putin liberated, whoever you're talking, depending on who you're talking to.
Well, you better watch out, Rick. You better watch out. You're going to get stormed on the show.
No kidding. And I'll end up on the Ukrainian hit list that's run by Langley. I mean, I know people who are on that hit list. I mean, normal people. But also before even that became a discussion and inflation was becoming an issue, he tried to say that it was used cars. Do you remember that? It's inflation isn't a problem. It's just used cars.
And listen, the Democrats are losing because, like we said, they don't want to accept it's their policy. What's going on? Inflation, cost of living, out of control. And what was Joe Biden doing last week? Having transgender TikTokers at the White House. So that's what they're concerned with.
Sorry about that.
Yesterday, he was racing cars, or 2 days ago, racing cars. So they're the reason they're losing. But, Republicans have to wake up. I mean, you cannot keep counting on the Democrats being a total mess every single time to win. I mean, they're winning by default right now. Not because of their commitment to America, that that they copied the contract with America. And I do want to say something about this, because people forget the contract with America in 1994 won Republicans historic victories. But what happened after that? What happened? They didn't fulfill any of those promises. And people said, wait a minute, we voted for you and you didn't do any of it. And they got huge pushback on that.
You spent your time impeaching Bill Clinton. And by the way, at least in the beginning, Newt Gingrich tried the balanced budget, right? What you need to worry about this time, folks, is that they don't even try. The rollout of the commitment to America, whatever, was a total joke. It was a complete joke and a total disaster. The website wasn't even right. We rolled out the website before they had all the talking points up. It was amateur hour. They paid Frank Luntz and Newt Gingrich to come up with the talking points
to copy it. And that's the thing. Another thing that's a problem is, they could say they're going to do this, they're going to do that, we're going to repeal this, but unfortunately Joe Biden's in the White House and he's going to be able to veto a lot of what they're going to say they're going to try and do in that commitment. So they're actually setting themselves up for some sort of failure, because they can't, if they make those promises and they can't get them done, people are going to blame them. And obviously,
Yeah, they should just
Democrats are
say we're
blame
gonna
them.
we're gonna slow the march to fascism. That should have just been we're gonna slow the march to fascism until you give us the government that we need to totally clean up this mess. But again, here's something I want to point out, though, David. You know, are they going to impeach? Let's say Republicans win the presidency in 2024. I would argue that it really depends who wins to decide whether or not Democrats will impeach, because if Democrats aren't impeaching, if the deep state isn't attacking, if the deep state isn't leaking, if the White House isn't sabotaging, then guess what? You nominated and got elected the wrong person. Anyone, for people who think like it's going to be easy going with Ron DeSantis, for instance, right? If it's easy going, he screwed you. Okay, this is if Barack Obama was going to really provide hope and change. That's why I always say it was very clear to me that there was never any hope for real change, because immediately he just fell into DC and DC just loved him. If he was really there to do the bidding of the people, return power to the people, really lend help to the people, they would fight him. All right. I mean, folks, it is that simple.
No, and that's
the reason why they hated Trump is because he fought them. If Ron DeSantis waltzes into the White House and everything's hunky-dory, he screwed you. He screwed you.
And that's what people have to realize. Look how hard, look what they're doing to try and prevent. They want to make no mistake. They want to pass. If they could, they would have done it already. They want to make sure they want to ban Trump from the ballot. That's how scared they are of him getting in there again, because they know he's going to go in there like a wrecking ball. They can't control him because, unlike many politicians, Trump doesn't need their money. And so they're lobbying money. They're tit for tat. He's going to say, no, I don't need to do that. And this is why so many Republicans are also fighting Trump, because they don't want to break the status quo. And they know that if Trump wins again, they're going to be forced to put on the spot, right? Trump is going to tell them, you need to pass this stuff. I mean, 2018, Republicans lost. The Never Trumpers consistently promote the fallacy that Republicans lost because of Trump. They lost because Republicans sabotaged Trump's agenda because they didn't actually want to do it. And Trump demanded they do it, and they balked. And so they don't want Trump again because they don't want to be pushed into those hard votes of having to actually fundamentally change the country. And so with people like Ron, I do like Ron. But I think he's being given bad advice by people that are desperate to stop Trump. They're telling him to run. They're telling him to run not because they think it's in his best interest. Because let's put it this way. All you have to say to Ron is, look, who has gone up against Trump one-on-one and come out better afterwards? No one. And so if Ron goes, you can't win a primary against someone like Trump by playing nice with Trump, right? So if Ron does decide to run against Trump, or if anyone decides to run against Trump, they're going to have to go full-blown attack against Trump, because they're going to have to draw a distinction between themselves and Trump. And if you attack Trump, you know what happens. Look at what happened to Ted Cruz, Lion Ted. I mean, people still call him Lion Ted. He's never going to be president again. He'll never be president because of what Trump did to him in those primaries. And if Ron goes against Trump and he loses, which is the likely scenario, his star will be dimmed. He'll be damaged forever. Chris Christie, right? Look what Trump did to Chris Christie. Look what Trump did to Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush, I mean, he lives in the woods now. I mean, no one hears from him. He's gone. I mean, he's a joke. And that's why they hate him so much.
2/3 of the voters in Texas will never vote for a Bush now.
So, I mean, Ron, I hope that Ron realizes it's just not worth it this time around. He could stay in Florida, do a lot of good. And quite frankly, we could be in position where you could get 12 years of strong Republican leadership if the GOP plays the cards right.
Yeah, because Trump can't do 2 terms back to back. He can't. He's too old.
Well, they wouldn't let him. He'd be termed out, but
you could do it. Grover Cleveland did it.
Yeah. But so
he could pull a Grover Cleveland, but Cleveland was younger.
We just need Republicans to wake up. And that's the thing I'm worried about with this election. I expect more out of our leaders and the people at the top. And in my race in particular, like you said, you want to know what the GOP elite, the GOP establishment is thinking. This race in CA13 is perfect because Kevin controls the strings.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
I know what Kevin talks about in public. that he'll tweet
That's
America
right.
first. But I know what goes on behind the scenes. My district bounced up against Kevin's, and I know what his consultants are saying. I know what his staffers are saying, and I know what they want. They don't want America first. They don't think it can win, and they try desperately. And in my area, like you talked about, Kevin controls everything: the money, the state party. If Kevin decides a candidate isn't who he wants, it's nearly impossible to get anyone to raise money. And quite frankly, I'm going to tell you this: if you look at our, yeah, I mean, they go around.
Let's
telling
not
people,
even get into it. They heard.
Well,
me.
I just still one day I want to know what it meant when the votes are already accounted for. And listen, you brought it up, so I'm going to say it. I find it weird that there's nothing about election integrity, in the commitment to America. Why?
Right.
Doesn't the Republican leadership want safe and secure elections? Why don't they even talk about it? There's something nefarious about it. Why did they not speak up, a lot of them, after the election, right? I mean, Kevin made a couple statements because Trump was out there on his own, and Kevin's very skilled. Kevin knows what to say to just give people enough to where they'll back off him, right? Because Kevin is looking at, he wants to be decades in power. He wants to be the next Mitch McConnell. He wants to be there for 30 years. So he needs to say something to give people just enough to fool them into thinking he's going to do something, but then actually not do something. Mitch is at the end of his rope. So Mitch is now showing you his true colors because he knows he's going to be done. And he's just showing you his true colors at this point. So this is what I think people have to understand in my area. They're saying things publicly, but the people behind the scenes are doing a different story. They don't believe in America first. They don't want it. And if they don't want a candidate here in this area that's going to prove it, because listen, if America first won in a place like California, it destroys their narrative, right? I mean, could you imagine?
They'd be devastated. They'd be
imagine?
devastated. That's why they didn't want Larry Elder. Look what they did to Larry Elder.
Yeah. How could they say, oh, you can't win like that? Trump can't win. If you could win in California with an America First message in a Latino majority district, their entire spiel is over, right? So they would rather lose with an establishment guy running an establishment campaign because then it lets them still clean up the narrative. Because now they're going to say, oh, look, that America First guy didn't win a primary, right? He couldn't even win the primary. He couldn't get above 4, which is, one day we'll all, I don't know if you're still on YouTube
one day
right now, but we could talk about some of how this things went down. I mean, I still can't find many people that say they voted for John, which is crazy since he beat in a sitting assemblyman who was considered invincible before this race. But if we had won this race in California in an area that had never been run by a Republican, because technically the district still a Democratic district, if we had won this, their narrative blows up. And they can't have
David,
that.
let me just say this. If you would have been the nominee, you would be 6 points ahead by now. You would. You'd be 4 to 6 points ahead.
They would be giving me no money.
and they would have bailed out. Here they just threw another. How much behind John? I just saw it. Another mill something.
Well, that was the Dems threw a mill in, but they threw some. They've thrown a lot of money, but they're running a typical campaign. Nope. This is the thing I think is crazy.
But he can't win doing that, David. He can't win doing that because the Hispanic vote is not going to swing for him there. He's not that guy. It's not going to do it organically or I would say automatically. That's what they just assumed would happen. They assumed that if they just won the white vote in the primary, that all of those voters would just come over to them. That's not in a place like
Latinos
California.
Are going to show up. They just assume Latinos are moving right. They're going to show up no matter what and vote Republican. That's not for you going to happen, especially not
Larry Elder.
Yeah, when you have guys that are citing them, they're running TV ads. That's all this campaign has become. There's nothing on the ground. He doesn't even have any signs up in Madera. I mean, actually, Adam Gray has 4x4s in the ranchos where I live, which is the most Republican part of the district. Probably there's Gray signs.
But that's because our BIOS people got behind Gray. They did.
Yeah.
Our BIOS because they're the same lot. Let's be honest. They're the same lot.
Adam
Your vote is not the same.
Adam Gray he's a slimy politician guy. He's going to go, if he wins, he's both. That's the problem with this race. But unfortunately, in my opinion, voters lose either way. They're going to get somebody that's not going to do anything on their behalf. And it's really unfortunate because California is a mess. There it is. Jim, Kevin, David. And by the way, David is the ideal Republican candidate, according to the NRCC. And look at the money they pump it in to save him. Look at the money they're pumping in to save him. Listen, David personally is a nice guy. He listened to, this is the problem. We talked about, I just talked about it. His advisors and his staffers, same with Kevin, and even the former congressman who now is very close to Trump, his staffers, everyone that works for these people despises Donald Trump. I know these people. I've talked to these people. I've been in rooms with these people. I know what they did to me behind the scenes. I know what they say privately to others. They hate Donald Trump. They hate America first. So much so that in some of these local races, you have these, most of them are young Republicans. They want to back Democratic candidates over conservative Republican candidates here.
They are.
This is the problem. And then these people get up and they take control of the NRCC. Listen, Jessica Patterson I've said this to you, Rich, in text messages. They want her to be the new RNC chairwoman.
They do.
And if you think Ronna McDaniel's bad and hates Trump, man, you haven't seen anything yet.
Good luck.
People can talk publicly about wanting to court Latinos, but I think it's kind of insulting. We're doing the same thing Democrats are doing to Latinos. We say we want Latinos to vote for us, but like you said, we don't want to put in the work. We just want to run TV ads and put our RNC outreach centers in the whitest part of Bakersfield rather than the Latino part of Bakersfield. Yeah. So we want them to vote for us at a default because all we're going to say is, hey, we share the same values, right? You believe in pro-life. So now you just got to vote for us. But we don't actually want to go to their doors and shake their hands. And Latino voters are smart. They know this. Listen, say what you want about the final results, but I was out there knocking on the doors, and I can't tell you how many people, especially Latinos, were just surprised that I was there knocking on the door. They're not used to seeing a candidate, and I think it's unfortunate. Were just like, whoa. Even where I live in California, we have state races. You got the congressional race, you got the assembly, Senate. Nobody's out there knocking on doors. It's crazy to me. Campaigning should be about meeting your voters, and Republicans have a harder task than Democrats because we don't have the media parroting our talking points. So if we really want these people to know we care about them, we have to do more of a concerted effort to go into these communities, to knock on the doors, to show them face to face, I'm here. You can vote for me. It's safe to vote for me. I made a comment about going into African American communities on Twitter, and a couple people were sarcastic and said, oh yeah, good luck, they're going to push you out, you'll need a entourage of security. But that's the problem though. If we don't at least try,
cowards,
they're never going to vote for us, because we have the easiest argument. If you go and talk to these African American communities in these big cities and you say, listen, what has been better for you? You voted for these Democrats, people like Lori Lightfoot, for decades. Look at your city. But they have an argument too, because they say, well, why would I vote for a Republican? They don't even come here and talk to me.
Yeah, but they don't know what a Republican is.
Exactly.
David Giglio is the first Republican to show up for the Philadelphia Labor Day parade.
I saw that.
Recent memory, David. And by the way, he just sent me another one the other day. It is working. There's one that I just thought was hilarious. I'm not going to show it up because I don't want to put her. But basically, these people are like, look, this is the first guy I think that ever showed up in this ward. This first Republican in years.
Yeah.
He's like, why would we just automatically vote for Mary Gay Scanlon? I'm not doing it. This is a black woman, middle-aged black woman. She's like, I'm riding the Giglio train this time. She's like, if he doesn't do well, we get rid of him. But why are we continuing the same thing? It's a 2-year tenure.
When it was the 16th district, we had downtown Fresno in it, which is, that's as Democratic as it comes. No Republicans go there. It's basically the people that get elected from that area locally are socialists. And I was going down to some of those things, and people, I mean, you would get looks like, I can't believe you're out here. Like, well, and there were Democrats there. They'd always have the booths, right? So the Democrats were always there. And when I rolled in with my little table in the tent, the looks I would get from the Democratic people were like, why is this guy here? What's he doing? Downtown Madera, same thing. They couldn't believe I was sitting there doing it because they're not used to Republicans doing that. So it's kind of crazy. And this is the thing, Republicans, like I said, we have to earn these voters, and you cannot keep them in your party long term by just running television ads and doing things. You have to actually go out and engage in these communities, because eventually they're going to say, well, we don't see you. We don't see you. They want to know you. Personal contact is what matters. And I wish the district wasn't as big, because we could have gotten more doors me personally. I mean, it's huge, massive district. But I'm just mind boggled by what's going on. And I think
it's got to be, let me just say, I got to interject because I got to get to the governor's races and questions, but you just said face to face, and Laura put it in the chat because that lady made us laugh. She was like, Galuch is fine. She said, I'm voting.
Yeah.
It was like based off a look, but how the hell would she have known if he didn't show up and shake her hand?
No,
you know
and
what I'm saying?
And she spelt the word in capital letters, space F-I-N-E.
And I just talked about to somebody, I'll leave you on, because I know you got some governor's races, but when I was in Coalinga, I mean, guy came up to me and was just like, I am a Democrat. Well, the first day we talked and he left, he came back the next day and said, you know, I'm a Democrat, but I like you as a person. I liked how you talked to me. I'm going to put your sign in my front yard. So a lot of people get hung up on this DNR thing, but sometimes when the candidate just talks to people, they look and they say, wait a minute, this guy's a Republican and he's not that bad of a guy. He seems like a genuinely good guy.
That's why you won those precincts.
And that's why you can't have these guys like my former opponent. I mean, it's just unfortunate, because we need to start electing people that want to rock the boat, that want to change things. And I've cautioned, because I have gotten a lot of crap from some people saying, why are you attacking leadership so much? And Kevin, don't you want to win? Don't hurt the Republicans. Listen, it's a pivotal time in this country's history. We need leaders heading the Republican Party that are going to represent our party every day on the television, that are actually up to the task and that are going to hold the Democrats accountable. And right now, we don't have that in either chamber and at the RNC. And if we win again and we stick with these same swampers, the swamp is never going to weaken. Look at the money. The money going to Kevin, the money going to Mitch.
They're the faces of the party. Without a sitting president, they are the faces of the party, the image of the party. So, of course, no, you have to be harder on them than you are on anybody else. I mean, it's a daily oversight job as a voter, as an activist, or whatever it is that you are. I mean, if you're a participant in the political process at all, it is a daily process of oversight. Think of yourself as a congressman with a committee assignment, and you're on the oversight committee. I mean, you have got to keep a close eye on them, because there's, you know, it used to be in America that people understood this. They had a great, healthy degree of skepticism toward elected officials. They knew inherently politicians are dirtbags. They'll screw you over the first chance they get. I mean, I don't know why America has forgotten that, because that is, a central tenet of the way that we built this government was designed around central tenets like that. Like, you have to guard against these people of power, because they do anything to get there, but they, and then stay there. Once they get there, they'll do anything.
And look at the money. I mean, Kevin's PAC took $300,000 in Q2 from big tech. So they're going to talk about keeping big tech accountable. If big tech was scared,
no chance
that they're going to be held accountable, why are they giving hundreds of thousands? They know they're not going to be held accountable. Listen, a television hearing where you get a clip for a fundraising email means nothing. That's not accountability. Accountability is when people lose their jobs, when people get indicted, when laws get passed.
Laws are passed.
That's holding people accountable. And short of that, hearings are not accountability, and Republicans are the party of hearings. I mean, and voters are tired of it. I mean, I'm sure you get it on the phone. I don't want hearings. A lot of voters, they want tit for tat. There are a lot of people that do want.
No,
the
the Republicans want Merrick Garland removed, Mayorkas removed. I mean,
well,
they
I mean,
want
those
people
guys,
removed.
but I don't even consider that to be tick for tat. I mean, impeaching Merrick Garland and Mayorkas, quite frankly, those two deserve it. I mean, look at how Merrick Garland's behaving. He's not
one's
behaving.
derelict and the other one's corrupt.
Yeah, they're not behaving. Up, Rep. We got Q&A time, so you do your stuff. But thank you for having me on, guys. If you want to watch my show,
tell people.
Stream on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble on Tuesdays at 9 or 9:30 Eastern time, 6:30 Pacific time. Also on Getter. So the show is America First Live with David Giglio. I see Laura in our capital letters. Look, Laura.
Yeah, name the show.
Yeah, so America First Live with David Giglio. You can go
that.
on YouTube now. They have the YouTube handles. So you type in YouTube at David Giglio CA. And then same on Twitter, same on Getter, and on Facebook, same on all those at David Giglio CA. So watch it and listen to Rich because he's the best. I mean, Rich knows what he's talking about. Man. And he's the best in the business. And I'm excited that in the future, Rich is going to get a lot more recognition that he deserves because he's not a Center Street PAC guy. He polls.
Oh,
he
God.
I had to throw it in there because I saw.
What is it, It's Mastriano down by 28 or something?
It's
outrageous. We spoke to 200 voters in the state of Pennsylvania and actually now notice because they were criticized by the small samples, they're now pretending their sample size was like 1,027. Folks, they're lying. Center Street PAC is fabricating polls. I'm going to outwardly say this right now. It's not real. It is that is a disinformation situation over there. Those polls are not legitimate. And by the way, there will be a reckoning after this election because I am bringing more and more people onto my side. It's going to be basically all of us against one slimy idiot, over at 5 Turd Fake. And there will be a reckoning. You don't perform correctly, you're going to be hurting because we're going to make sure everybody knows
going to
you
yell
suck.
at me. So I'm waiting for the text message. So I'll see you. You guys do your thing.
Take care of that baby.
I'll be back soon. Best. Yeah. Bye.
All right. Later, David. Cute new little baby. God bless him. America First Live with David Giglio. Go check it out. I'll tell you what, you put together that show. I have a feeling if he runs again, he's going to have a much bigger following than he did the first time around. Again, if David would have won that district, you'd be talking about an expansion of the Republican base vote by 15% because the other candidate's white vote was going to be a Republican vote. That was never the problem in that district. The problem in that district was how do we pull these Hispanic counties in Merced, these precincts, away from Adam Gray? Guess what? Go look at it. Those are the ones he won. He lost the Republican ones with the white voters. He won the precincts that Adam Gray needed to win in November. Now Adam Gray is going to win them. All right. And they're feeling confident. And it's like David said, it almost doesn't really matter who's going to win, folks. I have news for you because, John is a pro-choice, pandering, I'm in it for me. He hates Donald Trump. He is not pro-Donald Trump. Devin Nunes, shame on you, man. Shame on you. Why? Because he gave you money when you were a congressman. I don't take orders from anybody. I don't carry water for anyone. I don't give a damn what you did when you were the chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on stupidity. It's a disgrace. You made the wrong decision. And now you're going to lose that seat because of it. Worse, you're going to lose that seat. And then Adam Gray is going to dig in. If it was any time to win that new open seat in California, an open seat in California. Yeah, the combination of corruption and stupidity in the Republican ranks is too much to bear. That's why I really could never be a Republican. All these people, it's a Republican pollster. I am not a Republican pollster. I obviously have views that lean to the right. Obviously. Every pollster has views. I absolutely hate the Republican Party. You want the truth? Can't stand them. I at least respect, even though I tend to agree with them more on issues, I actually can honestly say that I respect the Democratic Party more because at least they do what they say they're going to do. At least they're run by people who represent them. Who are their two leaders? Nancy Pelosi from California and Chuck Schumer from New York City. Sounds like they represent their voters to me. Who's the leadership on the Republican side? You have an absolute scumbag rhino trader in Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, which is a red state, who's married to somebody who has her hand in every cookie jar. I mean, you might as well just call him Beijing Mitch. And then Kevin McCarthy, whose idea of outreach is Bakersfield. It's a joke. The Republican Party should be led by somebody from Florida and somebody from Ohio. There should be not that you don't have Big Ten party and you don't invite leaders and give them committee assignments, but the House Majority Leader from California, oh no. And they all hate MAGA. They all hate Donald Trump. Don't ever let them fool you. They're not America first. They hate your guts. They don't want to represent you. They want their white rich people back. That's the truth. They want their white rich people back. All right, let's get into some of because a lot of questions I can deal with in these governor projections. Somebody had asked me if I thought Drazen had a chance. In fact, we are putting Oregon as slightly Republican. The dynamic there, the independent is consistently polling between 12 and 17%. Given some of the primary issues there for Democrats, they simply can't have that. All right, so Oregon, actually, we do have as leaning Democrat. The races that we do have Republicans picking up outside of that is the state of Nevada. We do believe Joe Lombardo will defeat Sisolak in Nevada. Kansas is another pickup state. Wisconsin, Tim Michaels, we do believe, will beat Tony Evers. His lead is not as big as Ron Johnson's over Mandela Barnes. However, Evers consistently polls in the low to mid 40s, and Michaels has a higher range, which at this point now is a high of 47, with still there were more people undecided than expected, which you'll see. But it doesn't matter because Tony Evers can't get above 44. So he's in deep trouble. We do actually think that Tudor Dixon probably has a better than not chance of defeating Gretchen Whitmer, despite what the polls suggest. All right. We're doing that based on voter analysis that we've been running. And of course, the past understating of Republican share of the vote in Michigan. It is 2 points more Republican than it was just 2 years ago. All right. Plus, looking at some of the polling data, Dixon, people just suck at polling Michigan. Dixon is doing very well in areas of West Michigan where there are battleground districts. And then she's also doing well in southeastern Michigan where she needs to. Macomb, all right, she's going to lose Oakland. Of course, how bad is she going to lose Oakland is the question. But as of right now, it is slightly leaning, I think, toward Tudor Dixon. But I don't think. It's just it's a matter of it's a matter of all the things we've gone over: primary vote shares, demographic voting behaviors, and on and on and on. The polling is the least of it to us. I'm tired of this game I have to play every damn time. And in 2018, when we put those three maps up, the point was to show you how badly does polling actually skew the forecast. The variables only version of the forecast was the more accurate. No polling. Right, all except for Arizona. That was it. Florida, Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, down the line. All right. As of right now, Pennsylvania, we are leaving as a Democrat hold until Mastriano does better, closes the gap with some of these groups. It's just, do I think it's over? I mean, no, I don't think it's over, but I am as honest as it gets in this business, folks. And as of right now, you have to give that to Shapiro. You do. It's just those. You'll see when the poll comes out. You'll see. And white vote shares, not enough. You got to do better in some of these areas where Oz is actually Luzerne, right? Monroe, Pike, Lackawanna area. I mean, Oz is outperforming Shapiro basically everywhere there. Now, it could be, I mean, outperforming Mastriano. Now, I will say this with a caveat. It is absolutely possible that Mastriano's voters are much more difficult, and that if there's going to be a big miss and bias, it'll be with somebody like Doug Mastriano. You'll even see when you see who we talked to, but how much it was weighted. The time I had getting the working class to take these surveys, it was not easy. But generic ballot wise, I would say with the Senate race, you could just see that it really wasn't a question, because Oz's lead with working class is huge. It's big. It's actually bigger than Doug's. But he just does better with educated voters. Now, if the biggest miss is that working class, then that's why. So I don't think it's a question of whether or not Oz is going to outperform Mastriano at this point. I just don't, because even if we did have a miss with the working class, Oz is still doing better with the educated. So I do think Oz is going to outperform, because he's going to do at least as good with the working class as Mastriano at this point. But let's say he doesn't. Mastriano outperforms Oz with the working class and does worse with educated voters. It just means that the difference would shrink. It doesn't necessarily mean that Mastriano would outpace Oz. That said, Robert brought up something interesting last night. Is it possible that Oz just blows it away, and then the governor's race is much closer than everyone thought, and Mastriano ekes it out? Oh, yeah. I told Laura that, if we could continue through the weekend in Pennsylvania, and hell, I may. If we could continue through the weekend in Pennsylvania, I wouldn't at all be surprised if this got to like an Oz plus 4 or 5 by the time Tuesday rolled around. Next Tuesday, not the election, but Tuesday. That's how bad Fetterman had begun to collapse. It was bad. And we're not the only ones who see it. Right, Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden? Right. And their own memos. All right, so let's get to some more of this. And I'll just throw this up for it. What we're going to do is, let me put this up before I go back to more questions. Again, I'm just going to say real quick, it is 1:40, so let me do this one more time here. All right. Real quick word, as always, and a thank you from our sponsors. Okay. Drought, inflation, even new policies, weather, pushing America's food supply to its breaking point, and that's why survival food is more important than ever. Like Laura and I, create your own stockpile of the best-selling for Patriots. Kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, they stack easily, and the food is good for 25 years. Hand-packed right in a family-owned facility of the US of A. All right? Look, when you get the 3-month survival kit, which is the jam and should be the foundation of every single one of all of your preparations, you get their famous guarantee for an entire year plus 10 free gifts, every single one of which is extremely useful and free shipping. They're called Fort Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. I forgot this last time. If you're surfing their excellent website, checking out all the other cool products, don't forget promo code TPP10 at checkout, and that'll give you 10% off your site-wide order. All right? Don't forget that, TPP10, if you buy other products from their website. All right, let me put this back up so I can show you kind of what I mean, and then we're going to answer some of your questions that have to do with it, frankly. All right, here we go. So you see how the Senate forecast is right here? No, you don't. Not yet. Okay. You see how the Senate forecast is? Soon you're going to see buttons, and that is going to say Senate. And then next to it, you will see governor. All right, that's coming up, and it's coming up today. So you'll be able to check out our governor's forecast as well. There's nothing else that I really believe that we need to talk about. New Mexico, do I think it's closer? There is a new poll by Trafalgar that has Grissom down, I believe. But polls only understated GOP support by about 2 points in New Mexico. So we're not talking about this huge amount. That and every other, almost, not every other. Not primary vote share, but most of the other metrics outside of the economy in the forecast actually do support Democrats in New Mexico. Demographic voting behavior is overwhelmingly Democratic It's younger. It's like Colorado. Albuquerque is a tough nut to crack. There'll have to be an extreme shift in the Hispanic vote because white voters are just not something that Republicans can count on. So if there were other media polls that kind of showed what Trafalgar showed, then I guess it would warrant taking another look at. But there hasn't been much more data aside from a few polls to add to the fundamentals, and the fundamentals clearly suggest that Democrats will hold on to New Mexico, the governor's race there, even though there's been a lot of chatter about it. Gary Johnson did weigh in. He is super popular. Is there an outside chance? Yes, there is. But actually, I think there's a better chance in New Mexico than in Colorado at this point. The other one we have right now, still leaning Democrat or slightly Democrat, is Minnesota. However, many of the fundamentals favor Republicans, and it is absolutely a possibility that Republicans could win the governor's race there because Keith Ellison probably is going to lose the attorney general's race. In a D+8 national environment, Keith Ellison only won by a few points, and he is now in a lot of trouble. Even in big media university polls, he is absolutely in trouble. So it is possible. And then, with that being the case, you'll see other other factors at work there that pull them over. Look, even the Minnesota Post only has Waltz up by 5 right now. The RCP average is only 2.4. However, the overall understatement of the GOP support in that race is still below that by about 0.4 percentage points. So is it on the cusp of being moved? Yeah, it is. But right now, that's where it is. Now, listen, when something is slightly, consider the probability. Don't consider the color. Consider the probability. It means there is still a significant chance that it could go the other way. All right, so just remember that, and just keep that in mind. Also, of course, New Hampshire we have as solidly Republican, and I got to tell you that absolutely could have an impact with General Baldock down ballot. It seems to be impacting legislative races in the Granite State, and I have a very hard time seeing the generic ballot now in New Hampshire start to move over Republican. Races like there's one poll now with the Republican up in New Hampshire 2. New Hampshire 1 is much easier for them to win, so I thought that poll was a little backward. Caroline Leavitt, New Hampshire 1. Her own internal polling now has her leading Pappas. Pappas himself, their own internal poll shows that they are in a dead heat. So I think New Hampshire 1 is definitely on the table and leaning Republican at this point. So put it all together. New Hampshire, we have in the gubernatorial level solidly Democrat. We have New Hampshire now only 52% likely Hassan victory. And you have New Hampshire 1 now leaning Republican as well. So, and then if they have all of this generic ballot advantage at the state legislature, I just have such a hard time believing that there won't be an impact on the one race where Democrats are still kind of favored, which is the Senate race. That's the sleeper for me. That is the sleeper. We give the Senate seat in Washington to Patty Murray. Primary vote share wasn't a total catastrophe, but it was a warning sign. It did indicate that it's possible that they lose, but we're just not there yet. Georgia is now solidly Republican as far as the governor. It is not likely, it is not safely in the polling we're looking at that we not only others have done, we have done. Brian Kemp's lead with independents in Georgia, whom he lost by 10 points in 18 and yet still won in a Democratic environment. They have swung now to him. That race is over. The only bright spot or the only dark spot for Brian Kemp is that he is winning a very traditional white Republican coalition. It's the only diverse part about it is the MAGA vote that's going for him. Walker is bringing in new voters, yet not winning as much as the white educated vote. So that's the difference there. And independent wise, Kemp's lead is bigger with independents than Walker's is, though they both lead with independents. All right. So that race is gone. Stacey Abrams is about to be beaten like a drum. All right. So, I mean, why? Because the voter analysis that's inferred. So we don't have party registration to add to the fundamentals, but economically, the mood of the electorate is a big factor in Georgia in the gubernatorial election. Incumbency, of course, isn't it? But that goes in candidate quality. But incumbency is a factor with Kemp, but it's not a strong one because he does have a potential. He's a lot of Republicans who don't like him, but they're voting for him anyway because Donald Trump said to. All right. So, and, that's put it all together, and you basically have no chance. Oklahoma, I know there's been polling showing Stitt in trouble. Oklahoma, we still have as a GOP hold. We've been here before with Oklahoma, other states like Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, North Dakota. We've been here before. And the polls just they overblow the potential for a Democratic victory in some of these states. It's too close to consider it leaning Democrat. It's just too close. Even if the polls came, 2-3 more polls came out, showed a Democrat up with the advantage they have now, it is not enough. 1 point, and let's see what the last one was actually in our thing. So actually it tightened since the last poll came out. There was a poll in early October that gave Hoffmeister a 4-point edge, all right, which came against the Coco TV poll, or KOCO TV, which had Stitt up by 3, but now has Hoffmeister up by 1. Stitt is still at 45. He's not quite at 44 like he was last time in the Sooner poll. The Sooner poll is the one that gave Hoffmeister a 4-point lead. Folks, I'm just not buying it. At the end of the day, the partisan lean of the state tends to take hold, and that's going to be where we're at here. Is it a toss-up, Oklahoma? I think it's only fair to consider it a toss-up, but I just don't think that we are there. So like I said, that's a few of those. I just ran through a whole bunch of questions about governor's races, but let's see if we can get more specific in the last 10 minutes. Alex, do you still think PA will attempt some shenanigan for Fetterman after the disaster of the debate? Yes, of course I do. But I think that the free fall is real. Like the struggle is real. The Fetterman free fall is real. Is Trump not helping Mastriano because he doesn't want to alienate the suburbs of Philly? I don't know. But he is going and giving a rally. So he's rallying for Mastriano this weekend. So that's it. The Daily Beast perhaps galvanized the base behind Walker. He seemed to improve his standing since the first story. I absolutely believe that. And will Walker hit 50? The increase that we are seeing for him in independence, I actually think he can hit 50. If he falls a little bit shy of it, that's one, he's still going to win the runoff. But I do think Walker can hit 50. It doesn't seem to have worked out in his favor that much. I will say, too, though, it's weird. There are some Republicans who are voting for Kemp, those more squishy moderates. This is what David and I were talking about, how some of these people are really, they need to look in the mirror. So the Trump base got behind Kemp. Everyone knows they can't stand Brian Kemp. 20% of the Republican Party in Georgia does not like Brian Kemp, yet they are still voting for him. Yet there are squishy rhinos who don't want to vote for Walker. Why? Because he's endorsed by Donald Trump. And let's be honest a little bit. Can we? Can we be for real? Metro Republicans in sweater vests don't want to vote for Black Guy. Some of them, you're damn right. I actually will tell you it's the exact opposite of what you'll hear in the media. Oh, the Hicks don't want to vote for Walker. That's bullcrap. They love Herschel Walker. His rural margin is huge. Huge. His problem is people in the counties that surround Savannah. Some of them are going to vote for Kemp, but somehow don't want to vote for Walker. And what's that about? Right? I'm here in Oregon. Yep, we talked about Drazen. I do think that right now we are leaning that to Drazen. Why? Because it's not just one poll anymore. It's not just Trafalgar. It's real, and because there is a real third-party candidate taking vote share, and it is hurting the Democrat by far more, and they don't seem to be budging. How close is Mastriano to Oz's margin, guys? Until I absolutely, weighed it, I'm gonna say my gut's telling me it's like 6 points. It really is, but it could be a little bit more. All right, it could. We'll see though, because I know he'll be helped by right now. I can give you a little bit of a number. It's way too educated. The overall sample size is way too educated, which is why you have to oversample so you can represent correctly. There's nothing particularly wrong with oversampling. Overrepresentation is the problem. All right. What do I make of the early vote in Nevada? Even John Ralston seems confident that the Dems are matching their same firewall they got in 18, which obviously gave them a slight edge. Well, that is not true. But John Ralston is a political hack. All right. So if John Ralston saw, reason to go grab the fire extinguisher, he still wouldn't tell you. All right. The other day, his little hedge last night, that's about as much as it gets with him. And look, he attacked our poll immediately. And then 3 polls came out showing that I exactly was right. So, and he never apologizes. Never. He's a political hack. All right. Even a broken clock. It's not that Ralston's right. Even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. Hey, Laura, you may need to get this. Someone just keeps calling over and over again, and it's from here. I wonder if it's Poll School. You want to get this? You'd have to come in and give him a call back. But let me see. I can actually check. This annoys me when people do this. I thought you just made this. It's an unscribed message. Hold on.
What's going on?
I don't know, because they didn't leave a message the first time. Somebody keeps calling me. And anytime it's from a local number, I get a little nervous. It could be the kids, like a school thing, but it's not.
I'll look at
the one I know. Yeah, but they're calling me, and I just get a little bit nervous. Or it could be Pool School. I don't know. Okay. What else we got here? How do we dry out these? You starve them out? Yeah, starving them out helps, but it's going to take time. How do you get rid of establishment figures and push the? We're going to see how much damage the MAGA movement really did to the establishment this time. I do think John Gibbs is going to win, but someone like John Gibbs, he's got to win. Joe Kent has got to win. Oh, by the way, Joe Kent apologized. He had an event. Look, if it's a choice between coming on Inside the Numbers and going to an event, go to the event. Joe made the right decision. But these people need allies to be able to keep their nerve. All right, so the House will move easily. Remember Dr. Steve Turley on the program a couple weeks ago? He said a lot of smart things, and one of them was it's going to be a lot easier to move the House than it will to move the Senate. However, if Blake Masters, General Baldock, and Herschel Walker, if they all win, J.D. Vance is going to win. All right, but if they all win, those 4 alone, Rick Scott's your majority leader. I really do believe that. All right, because they're just not going to play with Mitch McConnell. Rick Scott's going to go. He's going to see them the day they're sworn in. And he's going to go, hey, buddy, gentlemen. Why? Because guess who? Guess who helped them? Who prepared Herschel Walker for the debate during which he wiped the floor with Raphael Warnock? Rick Scott was there for a lot of these guys. He's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. It's for loyalty. But they don't like Mitch McConnell. And McConnell's tried to sabotage them. So, I really do think that if you get all of these Trump-endorsed people in the Senate, especially Blake, it's because JD's in, but especially Blake Masters and then General Baldock, if you were to get these guys, Mitch McConnell's in deep trouble. The Rhino wing of the Senate is in deep trouble because they'll be forced to be exposed. Right now, they're like, we don't have enough senators. We don't have enough senators. Well, it's going to take some time to get these people out, but starving them out is a good idea. That's why what Trump did was smart. He took a lot of money away from the NRCC and the NRSC. The problem is, like one person said, why didn't he spend more on Mastriano, more on Masters? It's a good question. Robert and I did not like what we've been seeing. And it kind of sucks because, there are people, including Robert and I, were kind of waiting to see. He sucks all the oxygen and the money out of the room. So it's almost like this cycle was not even worth competing with him. So I really do think that this could have been done better. Like the minute the RGA stabbed Doug Mastriano in the back, it should have been an immediate sign to save America that, oh my God, we need, if the president wants to run again, we need Pennsylvania. We need it. It should have been immediately a target. You know what, RGA? You know what, Karl Rove? Screw you. I mean, that is the smart way to do it. All right. Oh, I got through quite a bit of them. I did indeed. His final days of stumping will be Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and PA. Are those first three a mistake? Yes. It should be Arizona and PA. Arizona and PA. And New Hampshire, maybe. Parts of New Hampshire, anyway. Michigan. I mean, you got to run up that margin in Warren and McComb. You have got, and he's the only one who can do it. Iowa is a done deal. Chuck Grassley is not in trouble. Just stop it. Just stop it. JD Vance is going to win. Stop it. All right. So I think that gets to most of it. Plus, we do have something too. But wow. Keep your eyes out for all of this new stuff that's going to be rolled out. Okay. Appreciate it. As always, you guys joining. Locals, for real. Keep your eyes peeled. All right. Word on the book club. Are we going to start John Mearsheimer this weekend? I'm not sure yet. All right. I know you got it and you're ready to go. Tragedy of Great Power Politics. The polling and the final stretch like this is really tough. It takes a lot of time, but I would like to try. I would. It's just that I don't want to promise anything just yet. I know I'm slammed after I get off the show right now. I know I'm slammed tomorrow, at least until 2 or 4 o'clock. And so it's just hard. It's hard to get it all in because I can't delegate processing numbers to anybody. Ultimately, it's my name. Ultimately, it'll be my name, my results, and my company that's going to be judged, by all these people. Election Recon, RCP. I mean, I have to get this right, so it has to be me. I cannot delegate it to anybody else. And then, of course, like I said, you'll learn more about election night. Keep your eyes peeled on that as well. Bum, bum, bum. I think that's basically it. What, Laura? Is that like a legitimate instruction?
Can you read the chat in the private chat?
Hold on, let me go back and see. I think I did already. That's a huge question. We didn't even get to that yet. That's a totally different topic, frankly. All right. That's not something we're probably even going to do, Laura. But, maybe we can talk about several of them here and there, but we're not giving a model on state legislatures. All right. We're just not doing. There's not enough time to do that. If I was only doing the election forecast model, we would do it like we did in 2014. But there's just no time to go through all of that. So I would love to, but we're not. But Maine, Nevada, I do think looking at the ballot there, that's probably in a lot of trouble for Democrats. They're in a lot of trouble there. But some of these other states, Oregon, I don't think so. That would be tough. That would be really hard. And so we go. I did see that last question. I'm going to check for you real quick. There's not from me, but I will tell you on our House ratings, Kevin Kiley is going to win California 3. All right. Jones is not going to win. I don't buy it. Kevin Kiley is very well liked by his own. He won his primary pretty handily. So it's a good question, Mason, but we have Kevin Kiley as likely Republican. So, I just don't see him in trouble. I mean, he would survive a good Democratic year. I really believe that. It is new districts, but we know them. We're very intimately familiar with the demographics of his district, as well as David's old district, as all of them. McClintock's. Do you think that Garcia will survive as well. I'll just say this real quick. Mike Garcia, he's going to survive at this point. Who is not going to survive? Let me get him right now for you. David and I were just talking about him. McCarthy's buddy, David Valadao. He is not going to survive. He listened to his typical establishment hack consultants who told him it would be a great idea to impeach Donald Trump. Kevin McCarthy had asked Donald Trump. I don't know why Trump agreed to it. I would have told Kevin to stick it up his ass. But he told Kevin that he would not go after David Valadao the way he went after everybody else. Frankly, it was all in vain because David is going to lose. The voters remember, many of them will not vote for him, and he's already in a more Democratic district. So, sayonara, David Valadao. You have lost as well. Right now, David Valadao's district, honestly, is teetering on likely Democrat. I don't care what anybody says. It would need the Trump voter to forget, and then he would need to do extremely, extremely well. I don't see it. Well, he is the most likely to be defeated out of that group. Steele, she's going to be all right. Garcia is a rock star when it comes to pounding doing the work he needs to do, really dragging it out. All right, but with that in mind, like I said, keep your eyes peeled. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers. Follow me on Truth and Getter at People's Pundit on Twitter. Elon Musk's new Twitter at People's_Pundit. Laura, we're going to get Elon to reinstate your account. I'm gonna give him a little bit of time, and I'm gonna beat him over the head constantly until he responds. And by the way, PPD too. By the way, there was no reason for PPD to be banned from Twitter. It was a data journalism site. Never fact checked. Not once. Not once. Because it was a home of the election model that was more accurate than 5-turd fake. That's why it got banned. Let's cut the crap. Anyway, on Rumble, don't forget, if you're not watching on Rumble, please do, or on Getter. That's also as great. But if you are on YouTube, you might as well subscribe and hit the notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. But we're not always streaming on YouTube, so definitely sign up to Rumble and grow with us, grow with Rumble together. I know you guys, some of you just like YouTube better functionality wise. They're getting there. Stay strong, stay firm. Great audience on Getter recently, and super stoked and proud about that. Combined folks yesterday, I think Barnes and I are up to I don't even know. Add them up, 50K. Big views, big numbers. Getter's been a key component in doing that. All right, so with that in mind, I'll see you guys later. Have a safe weekend, great weekend, but a safe weekend. We love you. We'll see you soon.
You wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette.